His spirit was clanging, meaning he was agitated. Vayishlach vayikra es kol chartumim Mitzrayim, called all the chartumei, the soothsayers of Egypt, es kol chachomeo, and all the wise men. Vayisapir paro lohem es chadomo veimposa usam lefaro. He told them over his dream, but no one was able to interpret it. Does say they weren't able to. The Pharaoh. It wasn't a satisfactory interpretation for him personally. Let's see, Rashi. Okay. Maybe you could sit over here. Of course, you're sitting with somebody, so it's fine. Rashi. In Hebrew, pamon. What's a pamon? Chaim. What's a pamon? A bell. A bell. Pamon. 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 It rings. It clangs. There's a clangor in there. His spirit was clanging. Umetarfa ruchei v'kashkeshes betocha kepamon. It was clanging like the clangor in the bell, like a bell. Nebuchadnezzar omer vatispoim. Here it says vatipoim. By Nebuchadnezzar, it says vatispoim. He also had a dream. There were two things that he was agitated over. Shikhas hachalom. Regarding Nebuchadnezzar, he knew he dreamt. He forgot the dream, and he wanted to know the interpretation of the dream. Here, Paro retained the dream. He just didn't know the significance of what the dream was. Who are the chartumei? Hanachorim b'timei mesim. Those who were meddled or involved in the bones of the dead. Shishol batzamos, the soothsayers. Timei hin atzamos b'loshen aram mishnah baishu moli tim tamio moli atzom eposos on the pharaoh posum ohiyosam. They did interpret it. They had interpretations. Avlo Paro, but they weren't satisfactory for Paro himself. Shlo yakola nichnas ba'oznov. Their words did not enter into his ears, meaning he wasn't satisfied. What was their interpretation? Sheva bonos atomoli, shev bonos atokover. You're going to have 7 daughters, you're going to bury the 7 daughters. This is the good cows, the bad cows, or whatever it is, being devoured. Vayidaber saramashkem esparo. Lamor. The wine steward spoke Esparo Lamor. I'm not sure what it says. Esparo, say El Paro, right? It's El, 2 Paro. What's Esparo? Eschatoi ani masker ayom. And also, what's the Lamor? Right? Say Vedabe sar mashkem Esparo. Later means there's something else going to be said. He's saying it right now. I'm admitting, I'm openly admitting my sins today. Rechaim Koch addresses this, the Lamor. No, eschatoi is okay. When you speak to somebody, you speak to them. Es does mean to. V'daber sarmashkim es paro. Okay, maybe. See, the Onkelos explains, Malu Rav Shoki im lifaro. He puts it in parentheses, im. It's not to, it's with. We'll see. What does it mean? I'm admitting my sin today. I mean, he was thrown into prison because he was what? He wasn't fully responsible in terms of his duty to the king. Afterwards, they found him innocent, and that's why he was reinstated. So over here, the Sipurno says, he wasn't coming with a complaint that he spent the years in prison, just to the contrary. Meaning, in retrospect, I was meant to be there. Because look at the outgrowth of the value of being in prison that I'm able to offer you, because I personally had an experience, therefore I'm able to offer you a solution to your problem. So he's trying to get mileage on this, the Saram Mashkim. It's Chatoy Ni Maskir. Paro Kotzav al Avodov. Paro, he was enraged against his subjects. Vitin Osi b'mishma b'Sara Patochim. I was put in the prison of the Sara Tabochim. Osi v'Sara Ofim, myself and the minister of baking, of the baking. We dreamt a dream in one night. Each of us dreamt, Rashi says in last week's parsha, the interpretation of the other's dream. Rashi here explains it differently. It was a dream that was worthy of interpretation. Let's say a person has a dream, and initially it's nonsense. What you seek out of interpretation. But this clearly, the type of dream they had, they understood, it needed interpretation. Even though Rashi has said in last week's parsha doesn't explain this way. He explains that each one dreamt the interpretation of the other's dream. So therefore, when Yosef offered the interpretation of the first one, the Saraofim understood that this was an accurate interpretation, because that's exactly the interpretation they had dreamt of the Saram Mashkim's dream. V'shami tonu, and there with us, Nar Ivri, a Nar who's an Ivri, Eved l'sar tabochim, he was a slave to the minister of butchers, meat purveyors, or executioner. It's interesting. I mean, Yosef was accused of trying to rape his master's wife. I mean, it was such an offense. He should have been put to death. Right? So the Gemara says, Potiphar knew the whole thing wasn't. Of course, the Gemara says what she did was she took the albumin of an egg and she put it on the sheet to show that it was sperm. But factually, sperm and albumin, when you heat it, it reacts differently to fire in terms of what happens. So he saw right away. He didn't want to embarrass his wife. But he knew the truth, that she's the one who tried to seduce him. He's the one who fled. He fled. And the whole thing was made up. So he was thrown. Otherwise, he would have been killed. So it's interesting. He's referring to him as Eved l'sar tabochim. Look, if Paro does the investigation, I mean, Yosef was a person with capability of one of a kind. He wasn't a fool. He wasn't limited whatsoever. But again, what does the Sar Tabochim know? He's referred to him as Eved l'Sar Tabochim. He was a slave. That's demeaning. And today he's in prison. He's in a dungeon. But if Paro wants to investigate, find out what happened, the judges knew the truth, because it's unheard of. How do you not put a man to death? Because they didn't want to embarrass his wife. Therefore, this was like a reprieve. They put him in prison. They really should have let him go. He was innocent. Rashi, how does he depict the Yosef? Nar Eved Ivri. Ivri Eved. Arurim Arushoim Shein Tovosim Shleimo. Maskir B'loshim Bizoyim. Cursed are the evil, that even when they do good, they don't do good which is complete, because when he mentions him in the most deprecating, disgraceful way. How it is? He says, Nar, Shote. No, Shote doesn't mean a fool. Okay. Shote means an unstable person. Okay? There's a Shote. Ve'roy l'gdula. And because unstable, what's the difference between a person who's a fool? He's considered competent. The person's unstable. No. Person is a shota. A person can be a super genius. You have no control over your behavior. That's a shota. This person needs medication, serious medication. He's not in control. What determines the difference between a responsible person and not? A person has choice. A person who cannot control himself has no choice. Therefore, he's considered incompetent for that reason. So his action, his behavior is attributed to him if he's competent. Of course, why did you do it? Because you chose to do it. You could have restrained yourself. A person who's not in control of himself, he couldn't help himself. So therefore, he can't be faulted for what he did. That's the reason why. That's why a shot is a person who's incompetent. He could have an IQ of one of a kind in everything, but because he's not, so that's shota. Therefore, he's not roy l'gdula. He didn't know. I know, but I can just say, if he would have investigated it, he would have found this out. It's interesting. Why did Ruvain lose Malchus? Because he was parshas kamayim, right? He was like running water. He was impulsive. Of course, Ruvain, chas v'sholom, was a fully competent person, but he was controlled by his emotion very strongly. Like when he heard that Yosef was sold into slavery, he's onanivo. What am I going to do now? So Rashi says, I can't tolerate the pain of my father. It's too much for me. I mean, we're not talking about he's a child. He's an adult, right? He on an emotional level, when he was touched in a certain way, he couldn't deal with it, Ruvain. Even when he said to Yaakov, when they needed a guarantee to send Binyamin, what did he say? He said they should take his 2 children. If they don't come back, they'll kill his 2 children. That'll be the guarantee. So what does Yaakov say to him? You're speaking like a fool. You're my firstborn, but you're speaking like a fool. They're your children, they're not my children. What kind of guarantee is this? What do you mean you'll kill your children? They're my children. But again, it's like almost because of the emotion, you lose your level of clarity because of that. You're like overtaken with that emotion, with that impulse. A person like that is not qualified to be a king. A king has to be in full control and maintain a level of objectivity to be able to reign. That's why Ruvain, because he was parshas kamayim, that's the reason why he forfeited the kuna. Ivri, afilu b'lshoneini nemakir. He doesn't recognize our language. I mean, let me ask a question. He spent 10 years, he was 12 years in prison. He was the warden. He was the equivalent of the warden. How do you run a prison if you don't speak the language? I mean, what did the Saramashkim? When he interacted with Yosef, the Saramashkim, right? What, he didn't speak to him in Egyptian? Of course he spoke. He doesn't even understand the Egyptian language. Of course he understood. He spoke Egyptian, right? I mean, so what is he saying over here? I mean, he's not going to say something where he could be caught in a lie, right? The Saramashkim. I mean, when he's going to come before Paro, they're going to summon him to interpret the king's dreams. He's going to speak to him. So if he speaks to him, he's going to speak to him what? In Egyptian, right? So what do you mean, afilo shoneinei nemakir? So either you could say, this you see later by Vayigash, when you speak to a king, you never speak directly to a king. It always goes through an interpreter. Always through an interpreter. Not because he doesn't understand the language, it's not respectful. How does a commoner speak to a king? So it always goes through an intermediary. So although he may be speaking Egyptian to the intermediary, Paro doesn't know that. You know, he's Ivri. He's a foreigner. He's not one of us. And he's so limited, he doesn't even speak our language. Therefore, he's not worthy to rise to power, to any level of status. That's either that, or it's like Tosas asks, there's a Tosas in Megillah. The Gemara says that quotes a pasuk that because Nebuchadnezzar was the Babylonian emperor and destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, there's not going to be a remnant, a trace of the culture. So it quotes, and it says a number of words. One of the things that will be forgotten will be the language. They will no longer speak the Babylonian language. Tosas asks, he says, even today they still speak Babylonian. Not Farsi. I don't know. Farsi is not Babylonian. Wait. You're already giving the answer. I'm just, this is Tosas' question. Tosas answers, there was a certain dialect that was only spoken by the royalty. That dialect, which represents the king, the family of Nebuchadnezzar, that's going to be forgotten. So could be that's what he means. Lushoneni in a makir. He's so lowly, he's so uncultured, he doesn't even have relevance to cultured Egyptian. He speaks like the street language. But in terms of what's considered sophisticated culture, that language he has no relevance to. But I think the first shot is more correct, that you don't speak directly, so by tagging him that he doesn't speak the language, Paro will never know, because you never speak directly to a king. It always goes through an intermediary, so he will never know the truth, the king. So he can lie all he wants. I mean, the moment he sees him. To be continued. Let's see. He won't get caught. Right. Correct. Right. In Howard's words, it's under the radar. Right? That's the way Howard speaks. Depends how far under you were. From where? Okay.
When he was describing the dream, how Yosef understand what the dream was, the wording he used, I was told, was Yafet Tor and Rakosh, like how it's beautiful and thin. The only other time in the Torah those two terminologies were used was to describe Rachel and Leah, Yafet Tor and Rakosh. Even though Rachel is spelled different, Rachel is like her eyes were blunted, and so it took 7 years for each of those wives, and those terminologies are used here for the dream, and 7 and 7 again.
Even there it's used in the negative. Here it's used in the positive. Right. Enel Rakos means her eyes were irritated. Morning. Because she cried. But here it's in the positive. It's beauty. They were soft quality. It's the other way. Okay.